Blessed be everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to share with you two books on candle magic. My very first candle magic book and also a candle magic book that is more recent. Before we do, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com, author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path and Tapping into Abundance. If you want to know more about Wicca, witchcraft and shadow work, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. If you want to become a better spellcaster by asking yourself important questions to get you thinking a bit more clearly about your spell work, take a look at my spellcaster checklist. It's a free PDF and the link is in the description field below this video. Today I thought I'd share with you my very first candle magic book. So I was quite the novice when I bought this book. It was back in the early 90s, mid-90s, when there wasn't a lot of books around. I think it was the only book, actually, that was around, at least in the bookshop that I was looking at the time. So this was kind of it. And it's the Raymond Buckland book called Practical Candle Burning Rituals. And as a novice witch, when I first went into this book, I found it a little confusing, because it has here a combination. You can either choose for the actual spell itself, what you're going to say, you can either choose from Psalms or you can choose from what's called the pagan version, which is this obscure poetry that just didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense when it came to working the spells for me at the time. So that was my first book, and an interesting thing about this book is right from the get-go, it works with candle magic from multiple candles. So you're not just using one candle, which a lot of spells only require. A lot of the spells that you might even find on YouTube are generally really simple spells where you're using one candle. You might be rolling it in herbs or dressing it with oils. You might be putting a petition under it or working with sigils. You might be inscribing things on the candle, but often it's just one particular candle. And traditionally, in the past, it was often a white candle and not necessarily any coloured candles that people were working with, simply because of the lack of resources at the time. When this book was written, of course, coloured candles became available, and so all of the spells in this book use multiple candles. And I remember thinking at the time, because I was a student at the time, this is going to get really expensive because there's a lot of candles that are used in these spells. Look, it's great to work with multiple candles. It's not necessary, but it's wonderful to work with them because they connect more with the psyche. You can have a bit of a drama going with the candles because they're representing you, they're representing maybe another person, they're representing the situation you're wanting to manifest. So you can have a bit of a drama going on with your candles, and that can help you definitely with your spell work. There's no doubt about that. When you've got a lot of candles lit, and everything else is dark if you're doing it at night, it's a beautiful energy. And you really feel like you're doing some magic because you've got all of these candles burning bright, and you've just, said all this powerful stuff, and it really can help you put yourself psychologically in the moment and in the feeling of the wish having already been fulfilled. So this book is quite powerful, even though it's an older book, and I know that there's a lot of modern witches out there that don't like the older stuff. But everything has value, and there's often wisdom hidden away in all things, whether they're modern or whether they're older. And this book's a great book. I probably wouldn't recommend it necessarily for absolute beginners unless you're quite confident in yourself and are quite willing to give it a go and not be too concerned about whether you're doing it right or wrong. I wasn't too concerned about whether I was doing magic right or wrong. I've never been a perfectionist, so that's probably why. But I do know that a lot of new people do get a bit nervous about doing magic for the first time, and that some people do concern themselves about whether they're doing it right or whether they're doing it wrong. And so if you're working with multiple candles, sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. And he doesn't give you a whole lot of information in this book either about magic necessarily. And a lot of the books in the old days, they didn't spend so much time on those details. They were really practical books for people who already knew what they were doing. In those days, a lot of people knew what they were doing because they were working with other people who could teach them. And if you were doing spell work, you probably were part of a coven, or you had somebody teaching you one-to-one. It wasn't as common to learn from books in the past. So hence the older magical stuff can be very difficult to understand, because it's really just a grimoire or a book of shadows that doesn't go into a lot of detail about the how so much. It's more about the what, and you sort of need to have a little bit of a background sometimes to really understand what it is that you're doing. The Psalms in here really baffled me at the time. Psalms are actually really powerful. They're full of magic. They're all about magic, actually, the Psalms. It's all about magic and creation, if you actually interpret them properly. And even the pagan poetry that's in here as the alternative to the Psalms does actually fit very nicely, energetically and psychologically, with the intent of the spell. It's not literal. None of it's literal. It's all metaphor. And I didn't understand that at the time. I was in my early 20s at the time. I didn't really understand a lot about metaphor versus being literal. And this is all about understanding that if you are using the spells in this book, don't take them literally, take them metaphorically, because they're full of metaphor. And it's the metaphor that the subconscious mind understands. And it's the subconscious mind, after all, that is communicating with the universe and your higher self to bring about the results of your magic. So that's that book. The other book I wanted to talk about is the book Candle Magick with Candles, Oils and Herbs by Jackie Smith, who I happened to meet earlier in the year on the Sixth Sense Society's podcast that we were both on at the time. And I thought I'd check out her book because she has a candle making business. And so I thought I'd check out her book and just see what her approach is to magic, candle magic and all of that stuff. And it's a really good book. And I think if you're a beginner and you like to read and you are maybe a little nervous or you don't really understand magic that well, this is actually a really good book. It goes into a lot more detail of the how and the why than Raymond Buckland's book does, or even his second book on Candle Magick does. And I guess some of the highlights of this book really is that she does go into the why, know what your why is. That's one of the things that I go into, even in the Spellcaster checklist, that free PDF that I have available for you to download free. In the comments field, that asks you these things too. It's important to know why you're doing your magic. It's important to know why you're doing the spell and what you want to get out of it. So these questions are really important. And to really get to the deeper layer as to why, in my courses, both the short course, which is the daily practice course, and also my Mystery Witch School 101 course, you go through a series of asking yourself why. Why am I doing this? What's the real reason why I'm doing this? What's the real reason why I'm doing this? And getting to different layers of your why so that you can understand at the end of the day what it is you really want from your spell work. Because often it's not what you think you want. It's what you want to feel. And, you know, she goes into that, which is really good. Most books on magic and spell work and candle magic don't do that. So that is really good. It's also about connecting to your inner self. So there's more of a connection on that psychological level with this book too. And it does actually help you with your magic. She talks about candle magic, of course, so your basics, your elements, working with the elements. There's colour correspondences at the back of the book. There's correspondences to working with crystals and gemstones, as well as herbs. So if you're working with the herbs themselves, or if you're working with them in their essential oil form, that's all there at the back of the book as well. So the correspondences are there for, you know, not just working with candles. There's also a lot of depth about the different types of candles, because we get lots of different types of candles these days. Back in the days when I was working with candles, we only had the dinner candles. There weren't the little chime candles. There were church candles, but the votives weren't really there. I don't remember ever using any votive candles or ever seeing any for that matter. It was all dinner candles, and so I used to work with dinner candles all of the time, and they take a while to burn down compared to your chime candles, or the ones a lot of people now use for the spells, which are kind of half the size of a dinner candle. So they're the candles that I was working with, and I still prefer to work with. So she goes into a lot of the different candles, the quality of candles as well, and the different way that candles burn down and why they burn down the way that they do. A lot of it has to do with quality, both the wax and the wick. Divination. So if you're doing any candle divination, if you're wanting to use that to help you understand how your spell might be going, a lot of people will determine the success of a spell, whether it's going to be successful or not, depending on how the candle burns down. So she goes into detail about that as well, and also different types of magic too. So it's a good book for beginners, intermediary people, and it's got, you know, some lists of correspondences at the back, which are just great as a reference guide when you are doing any sort of magic, whether it's candle magic or other kinds of magic. So that's those two books to help you with your spell work. So enjoy them. Remember to download that free PDF, the Spellcaster Checklist. If you want to learn witchcraft with me, you can certainly do that through the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. That is a 12-month course. It's to help you be a witch as opposed to reading about it. It slows you down, so it's not a fast-paced course. A lot of people find it a bit slow because they're used to reading lots and getting lots of information and not used to doing the stuff. And when you start to practice something and you're trying to build skills on a practical level, you have to slow down. Like when you're learning the piano, you have to learn slowly. It's something that you can't go playing, you know, concertos or anything like that after the first week. You have to build up to doing it. Being a witch is the same. So the Mystery Witch School 101 course is to get you practicing, and don't forget there is guidance along the way with me, so I'm there to help you out. So take a look at the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. The link is in the description field below this video. Thank you all for supporting the channel and supporting the videos. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Of course, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Blessed be.